Good evening. The most common question I get asked regarding whiskey has got to be, what is your favorite whiskey? Or some variation of that. What is your favorite bourbon? Your favorite scotch? And normally I say, well, I can give you my top 5, but I can't pick just one. So recently I've spent some time focusing on that question and thinking about what would I choose if I had to choose one in each category of 3 categories: bourbon, rye, or scotch. Which one would I pick if I had to pick only one? So after thinking about it, I do have some answers. My favorite bourbon, and it's been this way for a few years, for this particular one, I would have to say is, without question, Eagle Rare. It's a 10-year-old bourbon, 90 proof. It's, they changed the label a few years ago. It used to say 10 years on the front. Now it says it on the back, but it's the same. They also have a 12-year and a few others, but this is the most common one. Comes out of Buffalo Trace Distillery, like many fine whiskeys. And it's known as a low rye bourbon, which means it has less than 10% rye in it. It can be hard to find. I'm always able to find it before I run out, so I usually have a bottle going and a backup bottle. Although I don't drink it every day, I probably sample it once or twice a month. It's a pretty complex offering. It has kind of all the requisite bourbon flavors, but as with all bourbons, in slightly different amounts, if you will, slightly different strengths. I mean, you kind of get a lot of the stuff you get normally, as I say, it seems like every night. But I do detect some sort of sweetness, brown sugar in that neighborhood, a little fruitiness. I'm going to say not quite orange, but orange peel. Let's go with that. And I get, it's funny, I didn't notice this before, but I do think I smell a little bit of caramel in there. It's considered by many to be kind of dry. I don't find it terribly dry. I understand what they're saying. It's not like a dry wine, for example. It's not that dry. It's just, compared to many other bourbons, it probably isn't as slippery. It's very easy on the palate. I find it hard to find fault with it. I first had this maybe 10 years ago or 8 years ago, something like that, and I liked it right away. And like I said, I've always had it around. I don't know anybody that doesn't like it. Everybody that tries it says, wow, that's pretty good. They throw words out like it's balanced, it's easy to drink. And I think, that's fair to say. Like I said, it's a little hard to find, but it's available generally. Now, it should be between $50 and $60 a bottle for a 750 milliliter bottle. Don't pay more than that. If you go to buy it online, you'll find prices anywhere from that to, I've seen it for $150, $200. I think that's my opinion. Price gouging, or if you don't like that word, we'll just call it greed. It's a little bit excessive. While it's a wonderful bourbon, I wouldn't recommend spending $200 on it. I think it's priced right at $50 to $60, so we'll just leave it at that. I always, as I said, have a backup bottle, so I'm usually able to find one before I run out. I don't think I've ever run out without finding it. So look for it, give it a try, let me know what you think. As far as pairing it with a cigar, the other night I had in Oliva Serie V Melanio with some Eagle Rare. Really enjoyed it. Bourbon works with kind of pretty much every cigar in one form or another. So you don't have to be real fussy, but if you're looking for a place to start, any of the Serie V's will work, but especially, in my opinion, the Melanio. So, here's the Eagle Rare. Favorite rye whiskey was a little more complicated for me because I don't drink rye very often. So maybe in that regard, this is a little bit easier, but I have around 10 options here when it comes to rye. Some of them I've just bought to try, don't know what they are necessarily or didn't when I bought them. Others I have bought numerous times. This one that I'm going to tell you is my favorite rye whiskey is one I find myself going back to time and time again, and that's Uncle Nearest Rye. It's 100% rye. It's also 100 proof. Not too complicated. It has a unique flavor and a unique characteristic, I would say, and I believe it's because it's aged in Uncle Nearest bourbon barrels. So barrels that have previously been used to age bourbon at the Uncle Nearest distillery are repurposed, I guess we will say, to age some rye in. Now, I was going to show you that I normally would recommend cleaning your palate in between. I left the bottle in the kitchen. What I use is mineral water. People use a lot of different things. A lot of people just use plain water. I like mineral water, especially carbonated. I believe that you get almost a scrubbing action from the carbonation or the bubbles, and it seems to work for me. It neutralizes, it erases whatever I tasted before that. I didn't do that. Like I said, I left it in the kitchen. But it doesn't make much difference. I'm definitely tasting what I expect out of this Uncle Nearest. On the nose, it's interesting. It's almost every time I nose it, I feel like I get something different. But I definitely can tell it's a rye for sure. There's not a lot else in there that comes from anything other than rye. Of course, I can definitely detect that it's spent some time in an oak barrel, believe it or not. A little bit of sweetness. I can't tell you if it's honey or caramel at this point, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. And because it's been aged in an oak barrel, I believe, that helps the rye spices come through a little bit, in my opinion. It comes through well, just not as strong as in many other rye whiskeys. Hey, it would take me, if I was doing a blind nosing of this, I'm not sure I would tell you that it was a rye whiskey right out of the barrel. Oh, no pun intended. I also think I detect a little fruit in there, maybe orange. Although that could be a hangover from the Eagle Rare, because that's one of the prominent notes in that. All those notes are there: honey, caramel, oak. Yes, even some orange of some kind, maybe orange peel, I'm not sure. It's very good, and it's got a little bit of that rye spice, but not overpowering. Now, rye whiskeys typically pair fairly well with cigars. I think because of the spiciness in the rye, you've got to be a little more fussy. Got to be a little more engaged in choosing the right cigar. But there are many that work very well. There's a lot of cigars out there that have a hint of pepper, a hint of spice, particularly at the end or the finish, if you will. And I've been happy with Habano and Maduro cigars with most ryes, and that is certainly the case with the Uncle Nearest Rye. I also have had Sumatra. I believe it was an Espinosa Sumatra, and it went pretty well with it because it has a little bit of a spicy note at the end, as well as some other notes that seem to work pretty well. So look for Habanos and Maduros, especially to pair with it, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. I don't remember that this particular rye is very expensive. I believe it's in the $40 to $50 range. It could be $60, I'm not sure. I should have looked it up. My apologies. But I like it. In fact, I wish I had more to say about it so I could finish it. And now, my favorite Scotch. I might even go so far as to say, if I've got to pick one member of the whiskey clan, the whiskey family, and you're going to put me on the famous deserted island. Is it a desert island or a deserted island? Either one. it's got to be Glenlivet 12. Glenlivet makes, many fine whiskeys. I particularly like this 18. Did I say 12? I mean 18. I really like the 18. I find it kind of rich, full of character. There's a lot to offer. And there are 6 regions at least in Scotland where they make Scotch, and they all vary in their flavor notes, etc. Which is one of the great things about Scotch. It's such a wide variation of flavor as opposed to, let's say, bourbon, in my opinion. This one, like a lot of Highland and Speyside Scotches, this is a Speyside Scotch. It comes through with, some fruitiness. You really get your nose down in there. You think you're getting a little peat, but I don't always get that. So I was surprised to get that just now. But definitely some orange, some sweetness. Not super sweet, but vanilla neighborhood sweet. And it carries a little. Yeah, and you get a little bit of oak as well on the palate. So you get that typical Highland Speyside, if you will, fruitiness as well. Not really any smokiness or peatiness at all, which I wouldn't expect. I thought I got some on the nose, but don't know where that came from. I think it is my favorite whiskey of all of them. I really enjoy this. I could drink it every day. It's around, last time I looked, around $185 or so a bottle, so I don't drink it every day. But I like to have it at least once a month when I'm pretty proud of something. As far as a cigar, I love the Davidoff Late Hour with this Scotch. Now, the Late Hour is a medium to bold cigar, in my opinion. And while this Scotch is probably more on the medium side, might even say milder than many, it seems to go really well with that Davidoff Late Hour cigar. I had it with the Escurio recently. The Davidoff Escurio is way too strong to pair with this Scotch. It goes much better. In fact, I switched to an Islay Scotch because I felt it needed a bold Scotch to go with that cigar. But I've had, I think, a lot of the Late Hour Glenlivet 18 combination, and I really like it. So there you have it. Those are currently my favorite whiskeys, and it's been that way for a while. I don't drink them often. I kind of consider them special occasion, or sometimes you just feel like you need a special prize just for getting through the day or whatever. Then I'll reach for something like this. Sometime when I have company and I want to enjoy a good whiskey and a good cigar with them, these might be some of the things I reach for. But anytime I drink any one of these 3 whiskeys, I am not disappointed. They're always good, always enjoyable. Give one of them or all of them a try, and let me know what your favorite is. Have a great evening.